So we're here for World Tourism Day. Amazing. Thank you. I've been saying happy World Tourism Day to everyone. I need to come to the camera. I know it's weird, a voice that is talking out of nowhere. So thank you for being at this event. So yeah, we have people online, people in the classroom. Very excited to be here. Last year, we did it fully online with the master's student in tourism and management, and Eugene, who was teaching from Australia. Wow, we're so international. And this year, we're here with our bachelor student, master's student, many different programs coming together. So very grateful to be here. And also thank you to a few of my colleagues that are helping me out. But before we get started, let's just maybe ground our feet on the floor, take a deep breath. People online are here. Let's just arrive into the space and reflect on the Indigenous lands that we're on today. Here on campus, we have Orange Shirt Day coming up at 12:15, an event for staff and students. But it's very important as we start any event or any activity actually on campus to reflect on the Indigenous land. Here we are on the Lakwapsan people territories known as the Sunpees and Informal Nations. So if you know which territories, Indigenous lands you're joining us from, you can add it in the chat, or here if you want to share maybe with someone next to you. Land acknowledgement are very important, and I'm very grateful to love, play, learn, work on those territories. So thank you for that. I think it's very important to ground us. And for the folks online, can you be fully present for 60 minutes? Oh, that's a big ask, huh? Leaving your social media, leaving your phone, and just being here with our fantastic 4 panelists. So our goals today is really to build connection. So you'll hear from panelists online, panelists here in the room. Hopefully you can chat after and discuss career paths, career tips. And many of you will have internship coming up in 2025, which is kind of around the corner, right? We need to start thinking about those things. So that's the goal of today. I'll also talk briefly about the Career Innovation Project that I'm working on until March 2025. And then we'll have questions, and then we'll have networking. And yeah, before I get into the Career Innovation Project, I just want to say in the room, I'm very grateful that Anne-Catherine is joining us. Oh, Brian is joining us. You can wave at the camera. I have my colleague Tanya that is online with our little desk at the back. So online, if you have any question, the light is very bright. If you have any tech issue or any question, Tanya will be doing it. And we have Heather, my colleague, career advisor. And my name is Nancy. I should say that. You don't really know. So I work at Railroad since 2018. My background is in tourism and hospitality, so I'm a fan. And yeah, I'm here. I did events, student recruitment, and now I am with the Work Integrated Learning Framework team, CLD team. And this is what I have here on the slide. Just quickly, we got some funding from the federal government to talk about Canada's net zero goal. So that's super important, I think, as a student. Even I think in the room we have, in the Zoom room, we have some prospects, people who are thinking of coming to railroads and study. So it's really important, I think, in the world we live in to think about Canada's net zero goals, right? It's not sustainability. I think it's not something you add at the end of your presentation on a slide anymore. It's really, it needs to be embedded in any decision we make. So we got some funding to do that. So we collaborate with students and program offices to make that happen. We always have our career advisor working hand in hand with students. Connection matters. And just a little kind of, in French we say topo, I don't know if we say it in English, but it's the World Tourism Day started in 1980. And yeah, the primary objective of World Tourism Day, so why are we here? It's really about underscoring the importance of tourism on a global scale. And I like when they mention at the bottom too, by celebrating this day, nations seek to emphasize that tourism is not just about revenue, right? It's about fostering connection, understanding diverse culture, and promoting sustainable practices. So that's what we have for you today. Okay, and we'll just move. Oh yeah, I love to put that slide up. It's an interesting one, and my colleagues, career advisor, use it a lot. It's kind of a little bit the map, right, of like where you are as a student, even as a graduate, maybe. I'm a graduate from Railroad. I still feel that my head is like this. It's like, where do I go, right? I want to move on with my career, building connections, so what do I do? And this is attending events that you're doing today. So I'm like, cheers, I'm a cheerleader for you. You're doing it. That's amazing. And who are our panelists? I'm sorry. Panelists, I didn't ask you permission to use your pictures. So if people are like, I don't like this picture, Nancy, let me know. But yeah, we have our MATM grad, Szilvia from Statera Media. Do you want to wave at us? Hello. Joining us from Ontario. We have Kacia here in the room, Director of Sustainability and Planning with Forever. Yeah, 4BI/Forever Strategies, coming from South Spring Island today. Woo. We have our BBE grad, Sarah, Destination Stewardship and Sustainability Specialist at Destination Greater Victoria. Hello, thank you for being here. And Yasmin joining us online as well. Can you wave at us? Perfect. Founder and CEO of Vintage Art, Regenerative Travel Experiences. And I meant to say, when we talk about connection, right? All those beautiful folks, I know them through connection. So think about it as you build your career, as you want to build, like for me, building events. Szilvia, we met through Rebecca, who is online, and then Catherine. They were like, oh yeah, Szilvia is doing an amazing thing after graduating, let's invite her. Kacia, we met through someone we know in 4VI. They were like, oh yeah, Kacia needs to be at that event, that's amazing. Sarah, we kind of worked together on different projects here in Victoria. We met at a few beach cleanup as well. And at coffee shops sometimes, bringing our reusable cup. And Yasmin, we met at Impact Conference, was it 2 years ago? And yeah, I saw just Yasmin there and I was like, yeah, that person one day will collaborate. So we never know, right, who we meet along the way. And I'm just really a big fan of like adding people on LinkedIn and keeping them in mind to build connection. So enough of me. I think I will pass it over to our panelists to introduce themselves. I'll stop sharing. Szilvia, would you like to go first?
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. So I'm Szilvia. I am a graduate from the MATM program at Royal Roads University. I did graduate during the pandemic, which was an experience in itself. So once I graduated, it was a little bit, I was on loose footing. It was a little bit tough to transition from my academics to my full-time career, but after a little bit, it happened. It still happens. So it's never, sometimes it's not so linear, but what happened after graduating is I actually started working with a professor here at Royal Roads who owns her own travel agency. And that's where I actually gained some marketing experience, direct tourism marketing experience. And after kind of setting foot there, I applied for Destination Greater Victoria's content marketing specialist position. And I'm very, very grateful to have gotten that job and to have worked that job for an amazing 2 years. After finishing up that position, the only reason I finished up that position, I would still be in Victoria working there, but I did make the decision to move back home to Ontario, where my family's from. And when I moved to Ontario, I decided I really loved what I was doing in Victoria, working for tourism boards, working in marketing. So I decided to kind of take it into my own hands because I wasn't sure what it would look like in Ontario. I'm not really currently in a very tourism-centric city here. London, Ontario's okay in the tourism field, but it's no Victoria, BC. So I wasn't sure what it was going to look like. So I started my own marketing agency, and I am working on a contract by contract basis with some clients. I am still working for Destination Greater Victoria here in Ontario. So they are actually my major clients. So really, really grateful to keep continuing that relationship today. And I'm doing the marketing for a number of events for them, including the Impact Sustainability Travel and Tourism Conference. So that's me. I can't sum it up for them that, unfortunately.
Good, and I'll move to the room now. And Kacia, would you like to go next?
Sure, yeah. Hi, everyone. My name's Kacia. I'm the Director of Sustainability and Planning for the Forever Strategies, which is part of 4BI Group. So I've been there only since May, so it's still a new position for me, but I'm totally learning so much because my background is actually in climate change planning. I went to Simon Fraser University for my Master's of Resource and Environmental Management, and prior to this, I was working fully as a climate change planner and consultant. However, I do have about 10 years working in hospitality and restaurants, So I, saw this job posting, and it was kind of a marriage between what I really loved about the hospitality industry, but an ability to kind of apply some of my climate change skills as well. So yeah, loving the role so far, but learning a lot about tourism. And so yeah, would love to talk to you. Maybe you guys can teach me some things, probably. So yeah, great to be here today.
Be careful what you wish for. We might have to go through the program. Kacia will be in our program next year. Thank you. And you live on Salt Spring?
I live on Salt Spring, yeah. So very fortunate to live there. It's super beautiful. The head offices for 4BI Group is in Nanaimo, so it's a quick kind of commute for me, but yeah, lovely there.
Would you say that many people work from home? Do you have a kind of that hybrid?
Yeah, it's kind of cool. We have people located across the island, which is great. We have people in Victoria up to Port Alice. So, since we are a regional group, it's great to have that regional representation and spread.
Totally. Yeah, thank you. Sarah, do you want to go next?
Sure, yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Fallavollita, and my role at Destination Greater Victoria is Destination Stewardship and Sustainability Specialist. Very long title. I graduated, as Nancy mentioned, from the BBA program here at Railroads in 2021. So also at the height of the pandemic, as well as Szilvia, which was definitely challenging trying to find a position during that time. My background before that, I had also gone to school for clothing and textile sustainability in Edmonton. So I kind of did that for a little while, and then I decided that I wanted to be fully in sustainability, and that's why I attended Railroads. So after graduation, I did a couple of jobs that were interesting and provided me the skills that I needed to finally get my position that I have now. I've been there for about a year now, and fully working on sustainability and tourism in my new role. I was doing business research before as well. Another thing, I volunteer quite a bit, so I'm on the board for Supply Victoria. We do a lot of work for the community in Victoria, and I'm also the regional coordinator for Fashion Revolution. So we're a nonprofit that focuses on sustainability in the clothing industry. And I'm very new to the tourism industry as well, just like Kacia. This is my first tourism-related job, learning a lot. But it's a really intriguing industry. It's very large, a lot larger and more all-encompassing than I had originally anticipated, which is really interesting. There's a lot of opportunity.
Love it. Thank you. And Yasmin, I think you have some slides for us, so you can give it a try.
Yeah, I can share this now. Or you know what? I was thinking we'll just share them afterwards as a bulk, because I think those links will be useful after, and I want to keep it conversational. But yes, hi everyone. My name is Yasmin Yusuff. I am joining you from New York City. I want to acknowledge that I am speaking on the land of the Lenape people. And I started my company, Our Vintage Earth. I'm the founder and CEO. It is going to be a regenerative tourism booking platform and knowledge base that is set to launch in 2025. We have partners already in 5 countries globally. I, like many of us here, did most of my tourism-based education during the pandemic. So I graduated from NYU with a master's in travel and tourism management in 2022 with a focus on regenerative tourism. And since then, as my day job, as I like to call it, I work for New York City Tourism and Conventions, which is the official DMO of the city. Congruently, for Our Vintage Earth, I recently became one of 500 fellows globally, part of the BHER platform, which is a fellowship for climate positive projects that is sponsored by Mercedes-Benz.
Wow, that's fun. And if I remember well, you were at Climate Week this week, huh?
Yes, it is still Climate Week. It is wonderful. There have been so many growing initiatives that I've seen grow from the 3 years that I've been attending. So it is amazing to see it becoming as important as an issue as it should be here in the States.
Mm-hmm. That's one of my dream, New York Tourism Week. Wow. I keep saying that. I want to visit you next year. Yeah. Yeah, wonderful. And I have a few questions, and students in the Zoom or in here, please think about some question. But I think what we discussed, because I met with the panelists last week, so would you have any advice for a student interested in your industry? So it can be tourism, but it can be kind of industry you have been working with or volunteering with. So if you have one advice for a student, what would that be? We can start here, maybe Sarah, and then we go online, yeah.
Sure, yeah. So advice for sustainability, particularly, I would say networking. I know that's the really annoying answer, but it really does help. And that doesn't have to be going to like traditional networking events. It can be volunteering, going to other circular economy type businesses in Victoria, and just talking to people and making connections with them. That'll really get you a long way. I know part of how I actually got my role at DGB is through my volunteer experience. My manager told me that's what actually set me apart from all the other candidates. So I think that's a really critical part of trying to get a job in sustainability nowadays, is not just having the education piece, but showcasing that you're passionate about the industry beyond that. And then just continuing to learn. I know you're all learning a lot right now in school, but even after graduating, trying to keep up on you know, all the reports that are coming out. And just because it's such a quickly evolving industry, it's good to kind of try and stay on top of that.
Yeah. Would you see the volunteering opportunities you had, did you feature them like in your cover letter and then in your resume? Okay.
I did, yes. I put them in my cover letter. I had in my resume, I had a special section for volunteer experience, and I put a couple of what I do in those positions. And then I also had them as my references. So the ED for Supply Victoria was one of my references, and that's, I think, what kind of pushed me forward, which was really helpful.
Amazing. So that was Ashley that we received at another event. Yes. Yeah. And our contact is in Career Roads. Just a plug if you need to talk with Ashley. She's amazing. Supply Victoria. Yeah. Thank you. Kacia, would you like to go next? So my question, advice for a student interested in your industry.
Yeah, well, I would actually piggyback off what you're saying with the resumes, especially. I've found as kind of like a tangible piece of advice is I have a professional highlights section on my resume. So after your education and work experience, and if you have a volunteer section, I think that's great. This is kind of an area where you can capture projects that don't necessarily fit into your work experience, but show like the spectrum of things that you've done. So maybe if you've contributed to writing in a magazine, which was something I had done, a planning magazine, I put that in there. Or, you know, I list that I was part of the CIP, which is Canadian Institute of Planners Emerging Leaders Program this year. So it's not really work experience, but it just shows like the wide breadth of things that you've done. And, you know, it's kind of like a way to humble brag about yourself, like, you know, show all of the amazing things that you're doing. So I would say that. And then, yeah, my other pieces are kind of similar. Like definitely get out there and make yourself, like push yourself out of your comfort zone with networking, or even small things. Like for me, sometimes in meetings with people, it would be really hard to speak up and say something, you know, because you don't want to say the wrong thing. But over time, it gets easier to do that. You feel more confident in your voice. So just like push yourself to kind of at least say like one or two things if you don't feel comfortable. And the other thing that I've learned after, you know, and I don't necessarily love networking, so I'm still putting myself out there out of my comfort zone. Is that when you keep doing it, you realize that the people you're putting on this pedestal are actually like humans, and you make it worse in your mind, or you might think that, oh man, like they'll never want to talk to me, but like once you do it, you're like, okay, cool, they're human too, right? So yeah, just keep pushing yourself, I would say.
Right, yeah, thank you. Yasmin, do you want to go?
Yes, I have 2 points. So when I was in grad school, regenerative tourism, this is 2020, was a buzzword. I still think it kind of is, even though in the States, we didn't really have that foundation as you guys do in Canada. So I made it my mission to make this my niche and infuse it in every single thing that I did, every single project, whether it was relevant or not. I chatted with my professors and made them see that this was extremely important to me and found a way to mold it to my niche. The second thing is the tourism industry is so vast, as I'm sure some of you have learned in your studies, and as we've said here, I think Sarah mentioned it. So one thing is maybe make sure or find your way to determine if you want to work on the B2C or B2B side of things. Of course, there will be overlap, but I think that's really important. And then, of course, I echo everything that we've been saying about networking. Use your student label while you can. Anyone will be honored to talk to you for 10, 15 minutes of their time, as long as you say that you're a student.
Can you remind me, Yasmin, when you were at Impact that first year, were you going and talking with people like as a student?
So yes, my very first year that I actually went to Impact was 2022. I think that's where you met. And that was as a student. Yes, I had actually through my own research, through a cold outreach, found this professor, Marion Jope, at the University of Guelph. My dad lives in Canada. I have dual citizenship, so that's my footing for being part of this. And I was going to Toronto and wanting to learn more about sustainable tourism. So I found her research paper online and reached out to her, met her for coffee in Toronto, and she told me about this conference. And I have been going since because it is like the best conference ever for tourism, and especially in the regenerative tourism world. There are many student opportunities. So I would say it's extremely impactful for that, not to use the pun, but yes.
That is happening in our city here, yeah. And I have to say, we have two students in the classroom that were on stage last year. So Agrim and Veronica, I was so proud of you. Oh, and maybe there's people online, I don't see all of you, but yeah, wonderful. Szilvia, would you like to go? I'll go back to the question, advice for a student interested in your industry.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, not to be kind of an echo in the echo chamber, but everybody's had such good points. I'm going to kind of piggyback off of what Yasmin and I think Sarah said. Tourism is so big. It's so vast. So kind of keeping the networking piece of advice in mind, really sort of start to zero down, like, what is it that I want to do in tourism? Which direction do I want to go in? Does your passion lie in food? Are you a total foodie? Are you dreaming of working at an airline? Like, kind of start to think about these things. It's never too late. It's never too early, but start making it your whole thing and kind of start gearing up. Like, okay, I want to talk to this person. They work for an airline. Or, oh, I want to talk to this restaurant owner, see how they got started. Kind of start thinking of those questions. And I have to reiterate, do not be afraid of networking. It is easier said than done. I'm still terrified of networking. But honestly, as it was said already, like, everybody is human that you are talking to. Everybody is humble. Everybody, once you kind of start, sorry, the sun is kind of aggressive. Once you start kind of approaching people and opening doors for yourself, you're going to realize, like, hey, this was a lot easier than I thought it was. And this person was actually so much more receptive than I thought they would be. When I'm in my head, I'm always convincing myself that, oh, I can't talk to this person. They are leagues ahead of me. They won't have the time to talk to a small fry like me. That has never once been true. When I face my fears and talk to them, they have always had the time. They were always actually eager, helpful, connected me with new doors, connected me on new paths. So honestly, just do it. Just go and say hi. That's all it takes.
I love it. And when you started your program, Szilvia, did you think you'll become a consultant, or is it something that came kind of later on?
Absolutely not. I didn't even know I would end up in marketing. So that's another thing. Actually, I know I gave you the advice to start thinking about what you want to do. By the end of my program, I was like, what do I want to do? There's a pandemic going on and everything's upside down and I have no idea what's going on. And then marketing just sort of fell in my lap and made sense. And I started doing it and loving it. And I started to take that further. So sometimes things kind of evolve over time too. It sounds so cheesy. It sounds so Disney, but like follow your heart, whatever is kind of like screaming at you, whatever is kind of setting your world ablaze, like this is it. This is what it's inspiring me. Do that thing. Do it. And just follow it. Royal Roads opens so many doors for you. So go through those doors and open some of your own. And yeah, you're gonna do great.
I love that. And I love that you say identify your passion, but it might change, because I recall, as someone who studied tourism and hospitality in Quebec, when I got my job at Railroad, they hired me to do weddings, which is the last thing I wanted to do in life. But did I say, oh no, I'm too good for weddings? No, I said yes, and I took a contract who was extended, and then I was able to move into events and now to this role now, right? So it's like, I like that we kind of stay open and curious, I guess, to try something else. And then, yeah, other doors open. So I love that you're all sharing that. And now my other question, oh, this one I love. And those questions are from students from last year and some of my colleagues as well. What are the next big changes you see in the industry? Maybe I'll start with you online now, Szilvia, if you want to go, and we'll go reverse. Yeah, the big changes you might notice. Sure. Yeah.
Sure, yeah. All right, so the biggest changes in the tourism industry, it's funny, they've been kind of bubbling up since the pandemic, but I would say there's definitely a big like desire for authenticity. And more so than ever before, I would say people are looking to be kind of like moved by their travel experiences, by their tours, by playing tourists. They want to kind of come back home and take home ideas and kind of like lifestyle changes almost that make them into a better person overall, what they perceive as a better person. So whether that is being moved by a certain culture or moved by a destination's ways of life, moved by the sustainability of a destination. I think people are really seeking that. They're trying to say like, okay, I'm going to travel here because I've heard amazing things about the culture of Peru. They're very warm and hospitable and loving. I need that in my life. I need to see what they're doing and kind of embrace it and take it back home with me. So I would say that's the trend that's really bubbling up. People want to be changed by their trip. They're like, an all-inclusive is nice. Don't get me wrong. Look, there's always a place for a good all-inclusive, but sometimes people want a little bit more meaning to it as well. And I think that's where it's heading.
Wonderful. Yasmin, would you like to go? Yeah.
Yes. So on the B2B side, corporate responsibility, especially surrounding sustainability, is becoming extremely prevalent, as it should. It'll be interesting to see if companies continue to chip away at the solely environmental side of this, which is important, but I would love to see them transform their business model to be more holistic and tap into the community more. I think I've heard that in a lot of discussions this week as well, so I think it's becoming more top of mind. I've also been seeing a lot of companies hiring and consulting with scientists, which is fantastic because inter-industry connection is so important. On the B2B side, people are taking bigger trips, less localized, as Szilvia said, like we're coming off of this pandemic. And I think the revenge travel mindset is still definitely prevalent. We've seen it here in New York. We have the most travelers that we've ever had in New York, pandemic or not. So it's definitely becoming a thing. And I think it will be key for smaller destinations to align themselves with their bigger DMOs to kind of give that marketing aspect a fighting chance. This all being said, travelers are spending less on things and more on experiences. As Szilvia just said, experiences, memories, things that they can take back to them, altruistic or not, are becoming more of the souvenir.
Wow, more tourists in New York that you've ever had. That's crazy because there's so many people in New York.
It is slightly insanity, but yeah, the data, the research shows we are actually expected to exceed 2019 numbers, which was our largest year this year. So hope our infrastructure can handle it.
Amazing. Kacia and Sarah, do you want to go on the big changes you see in the industry?
Yeah, sure. I think for me, one of the things coming from a climate change background that I see is building resilience in the tourism industry, especially climate resilience. So like we know we have to lower our emissions, but that's not the whole picture. We also have to reduce the risks and impacts caused by those emissions. So, you know, we've all been seeing this happening, the wildfires in Jasper and Tofino and flooding in these major places. And so I think that we're really at a point where governments and tourism boards and DMOs need to include visitors in our emergency preparedness planning, especially because many tourists just don't know the risks of the place that they visit, or they don't have enough information about, you know, evacuation routes or anything like that. So I think there's really a push to integrating emergency preparedness in tourism planning. I know on Salt Spring, like if anything happens, the plan is pretty much just get tourists off the island, which is not much of a plan. So even for somewhere like where I live, like what does that look like? You know, the only way to get off island is by ferry. So how are we coordinating that with BC Ferries? Where are people going? Like there's just not enough of those pieces in place, I think. And we're seeing that travelers want more insurance as they're traveling places because of these increased levels of impacts. So yeah, I think there just needs to be better coordination and resilience for tourists that want a little bit of that security.
Oh, great tip. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Such good answers.
Yeah. Yeah, the main thing that I'm seeing right now in my work is a shift away from just sustainability towards more regenerative tourism. And I know Yasmin was talking about regenerative tourism as well. But basically what I mean by that is less of a focus on doing less bad and more of a focus on doing good, which is really exciting because I think that kind of reflects the cradle to cradle concept of, you know, how can we actually give back to our community through tourism? And instead of visitors making a negative impact or trying to lessen their impact, how can they actually make a lasting, long, positive impact? So a lot of that regenerative tourism idea is starting to come out. A great example of that is like in the Nordic countries, they're leading in sustainability. Obviously, they do so many great things. But they have in Copenhagen, there's a really cool initiative called CopenPay right now, where they're basically rewarding tourists for doing sustainable actions. So that's it's kind of an example of that regeneration. It's like, how can we get tourists to not only, you know, not make a negative impact, but be part of the solution, which is really exciting. I feel like it's a lot of opportunity for tourism businesses, and because of what Szilvia's saying, like they want to have more opportunity to live like a local and interact with locals. That's a great way to do it as well.
So is it something that Destination Greater Victoria do, like kind of looking elsewhere what is being done and mapping that out?
For sure, and that's part of what we do as well. We're Destination Greater Victoria is part of the GDS Index, which is the Global Destination Sustainability Index. So it's a benchmarking of over 100 different destinations globally and seeing what they do and how they're doing in different areas of sustainability. And what we've noticed coming out of doing that index, last year was our first year, is that there are so many amazing initiatives happening. Some of them are in our own backyard, like Montreal does great, Quebec City is doing really great things. And Victoria did come in second in North America, so that's great. We're on the right track. But the Nordic countries are they blow us out of the water. It's like we're 47, and then they're just doing so many amazing things. A lot of that has to do with their governance structure, because a DMO can only do so much, and they have a lot of that government support. But yeah, GDS Index, that's a good one to look at. They have a lot of really cool initiatives that you can check out too.
Amazing. Tanya, did I see we had a question about authenticity? Is there a question in the chat about a follow-up on?
Yeah, it was answered.
Okay. Amazing. It's hard. We see the chat and then we feel left out. We're like, oh, what's going on? We'll check after. Okay. And my last question, so after I can pass it to student, but what are the skills, professional experience, or personalities that I see you look for, but that you see your organization maybe looking for, maybe Yasmin and Szilvia, as you build your businesses, like people you're looking to hire, like what would be the skills, professional experiences or personalities? And I love that we talk about authenticity. It was brought up in another session we did 2 weeks ago of being authentic. So it's interesting because we talk about authentic destination, but being authentic as a person too, when we apply for work or something like that. So I don't know if online you want to take it first and then we'll pass it here.
Yeah, sure. Should I start?
Okay.
All right. Yeah, I would say authenticity definitely goes a very long way. So just be yourself, be true to you in the interview. It will really shine through. I was also going to say that what I really like to look for, just because tourism and marketing both are very dynamic and ever changing, and your day will never look the same as the one after or the one after. There's there's always something different going on and new challenges that are being posed to you. So I would say I really like to look for kind of like the go-getter personality, the person who's kind of not, they don't shy away from new challenges. They take a challenge and they try to figure it out to the best that they can. And of course, they can ask for help. That's part of figuring out the challenge, but they're not scared of the challenge, is what I'm trying to say. So kind of that like go-getter, like, oh yeah, that's new to me, but that's okay. I'll figure it out. I'll learn it. I'm on a learning curve. That personality is so awesome to me. It's really inspiring to everybody around them. And that's who I would like to have on my team personally.
Amazing. Yasmin, do you want to go? Thanks.
Yes. So I echo that. Like, I think having we all can say, I think all the panelists here have that personality, and I think it's essential for succeeding in this industry, mainly because we are people. So I would say, like, also I'm an introvert. You'd never know based on how I network, and sometimes, yes, we have to be authentic, but like wearing that mask for networking and being true to knowing your product and yourself is so important. It'll bring you so many networking skills. For me, for hiring, and I will be looking for interns next summer and fall. I think identity capital is so important. There's this book, I think most of you are in your 20s, I am too, but it's called The Defining Decade. It's by Meg Jay, a psychologist that's geared towards her 20s. And part of the book is about your career, part of the book's about your relationships, friendships, and part is your love life. And a lot of people say your 30s are your new 20s, so just spend your 20s how you want, but it's kind of gearing towards that. It's either very affirming or very kick in the butt sort of say, but she talks about identity capital and having jobs that might not necessarily be the career that you want, but you've gotten a skill set out of that, or is very interesting and a core memory of yours. So I think that is something that I definitely look for when interviewing. And then of course, having sustainability as part of your core personality. What do you do in your day-to-day life that makes you a sustainable person or keeps that within your values? So that's something that I'm definitely looking for when I hire.
Amazing. I'll come back into the room. Sarah, would you like to go next?
Can you remind me of the question?
Yeah. What skills, professional experience, or personalities do you look for when you hire, or maybe the organization as a whole?
I think it's very similar to what's already been said. I think that go-getter mentality is really important, like demonstrating that you, even if you don't have a skill, you're a quick learner and you're able to pick up what they're putting down and just kind of run with it. Taking feedback is super important and growing from that. And just passion. I think it's very easy to see passion in a person, and that is a strong differentiator between candidates when people are going up for a position. It's easy to teach skills, but you can't really teach passion. So trying to demonstrate that and emulate that in an interview is critical, especially in sustainability, I think, because you kind of have to be passionate to be in sustainability. But those are definitely the key things for me, I would say.
Yeah, I concur with everything that's been said. I think the two things that I kind of look for is people who can kind of like check their ego, you know, as someone who has worked in hospitality and has cleaned people's plates and done dishes, like, you know, that is very what makes me a humble kind of person. I like to think who just goes in really open and listening to people's feedback. And then I think what I really love is having people on my team that have the ability to elevate other people and lift up other people, both in their presence and when they're not around. So, you know, elevating other people's ideas, or, you know, standing up for them when they're not there. Of course, like, you know, do what you think is right. But like that to me really helps create a positive environment. And I want to work with people that bring that positivity. I will purposely go out of my way if I'm able to not work with people who don't bring that kind of energy, because projects are so much more difficult when you're bringing someone along who doesn't want to be there or who doesn't work well with you. So yeah, having the ability to kind of work well with people will just take you so much further. And yeah, just be kind, really, I would say.
It's really a good one.
Yeah.
I keep thinking of like hashtag teamwork, which we do a lot on Royal Road. And sometimes we're like, why do we do so much teamwork? But when we're out in the world, that's really helpful.
All it is.
Yeah. And maybe, I don't know who wants to take that question. You make me think, as many of us, like English will not be our first language. Like, how do you see that as a plus? And like how, because it comes up as conversation with students, like how do we showcase that?
Can I speak to that quickly?
Of course.
One of my colleagues, actually the colleagues that I'm closest with and do most of my work with, is a newcomer to Canada. And I'm constantly impressed by her opinion and her viewpoint. And so, like, don't be afraid to express that, because she provides so much value and like a unique perspective, and is representative of so many people that, you know, I don't necessarily have the same perspective as. So I think like own it for sure, own your viewpoint and own your kind of point of difference.
Love that. Yeah.
I agree. We have a very diverse team at Destination Greater Victoria, and I feel like that makes us so much stronger as an organization, especially in tourism, because there are a lot of different people coming from a lot of different places, and we have a lot of different perspectives that can touch on, you know, how do we adapt to accommodate every type of person and every culture. And it's just important. You have to have that in an organization if you want to have that in a city. So
Thank you.
Can I also touch on this really quickly?
Of course.
We are a global industry. I can say this from my personal standpoint. I am based in New York. My partners are everywhere globally. If you don't understand cultural nuances, are open to them, and can work with that, that is something that's certainly a loss in this industry. So I think it's incredibly important to include people in your organization from different perspectives, different cultures. You get so much more of an open-minded organization and a well-rounded one.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. May I speak on this as well? Absolutely. I just reiterating what everyone's saying. Don't be afraid to just say, like, even when it's like I'm Hungarian, like, oh, back in Hungary, like actually we do things kind of this way. Not in a like, oh, do things like Hungary does, but kind of in like an open dialogue sort of way, sort of approach. Bringing things up like that, it doesn't even have to be related to your cultural background. It can be related to like, for example, where your starts were in the tourism industry. Like, for example, cleaning dishes and cooking and whatnot. You can say, oh, well, actually, I used to be a frontline worker, and just working on the front line, these were sort of the challenges that we saw. feedback like that, especially when speaking to kind of like the higher level and executive team, that can go so, so far because they don't necessarily see things the same way as the front line does. So every perspective is a good one. Don't be afraid to bring it to the table.
Amazing. Thank you for that. Is there any question in the room? Yeah, please.
Hi. Thank you so much for this opportunity to speak and for doing such a great job with facilitating, and also the panelists, really, really interesting information. My name is Robin White. I have a disability for those who can't see me. I use a little scooter to get around. My question is about accessible tourism, or inclusive tourism, or barrier-free is also known as. And I wanted to ask, what do you guys see as far as, could this be, I don't want to say a trend, but an interesting niche to get into, because this is kind of where I see my thing. Yeah, I have done a few contracts with Tourism Vancouver Island. I was the writer and model for their, I think they launched in 2022, their tourism accessibility guides. And actually we're going to be working on another one coming up in Langford in only a week's time, which is great. But I've also done some writing for Destination Greater Victoria, talking about the built environment, etc., as well as some of the stakeholders, highlighting stakeholders in the area. So, but really what I kind of want to get into is kind of my question about accessible tourism. What do you guys see there from your various perspectives? Do you think that there's something there? I mean, we're talking about a lot of folks who identify as having disabilities, both visible and invisible. So that was kind of my very first question, the major one. And then the second one was with respect to a program here that I could possibly take at Royal Roads to kind of up-level my education. So I'll leave it at that and forward to your answers.
May I? Hi, Robin. So Robin, I've worked with 4BI on the accessible tourism, the project that you were a part of. And I've seen your photos. I've used your photos. I've amplified them.
You look familiar. You do.
Yeah, I recognize you. Yeah, so that's awesome. So to answer your question, absolutely. The most unfortunate part about the accessibility in the tourism space is how long it took the industry to kind of pick it up and to really, really start pushing it. But I'm happy to say that I can see that there is a shift happening in that space. More and more awareness is being put towards accessibility issues. And sorry, I'm kind of going on a tangent because one of my clients is actually, they operate an accessible charter bus here in Victoria. So little plug, Freedom Adventure Bus is their name. They're just,
what's the name of the company?
Freedom Adventure Bus. They just started this year.
Bus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're based out of Sydney, and they have two accessible buses that they operate tours in around Vancouver Island. And working with them, I've just learned such a tremendous amount about accessible tourism. 1 in 5 Canadians actually identifies as having a disability. So for tourism to not be accessible is cutting off 20% of their audience. So if you even just put it that way to perhaps a stakeholder or a partner that doesn't have accessibility needs, putting it that way that your message is not being reached to 20% of your fullest potential, that even just that number can kind of stagger them. So I'm seeing tremendous work and future potential in the realm of accessible tourism. And I think you should absolutely embrace it and make that your thing, Robin.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
I'd love to piggyback off of this as well. Thank you, Robin, for sharing your stance. And I think that it is, I agree, essentially important and becoming more prevalent and more recognized. Again, a shame, true shame that it has taken this long for us to come to this point. I could say this for New York as well. Like, we are an urban city, but a very inaccessible city. We'll be the first to say that. From that point of view, we have had Peter Satan, who is a consultant for our visible disability. for New York City. So I could see that becoming a career path for you if you choose to do that for a consultant in the space for GMOs. That's a path you might want to look into taking.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
You want to add anything?
I can just say that I'm still learning a lot about this space, so I don't have a ton of great answers for you. And I wasn't even actually part of 4BI when I've read the report, it's a great report, but yeah, wasn't part of that. I will say that I see it in the work that I am currently doing as becoming a best practice, and any of the plans that we're doing is including this lens. What I think there's a real shortfall of that I see on the island is still in these rural areas where infrastructure is at the bare minimum behind. Like it's not being pushed there as it needs to be. And so I think that's kind of almost a niche and a gap that you could maybe fulfill as they are making infrastructure upgrades, making sure that accessibility lens is applied in everything that they're doing just needs to be the way that it's done, right? So I could see that as another area that you could kind of move into or look forward to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. Do we have any other questions? Is there a question online? Oh yeah, go ahead, Grim.
Okay. Hi, my name is Agrim. So I came again, like you guys, I invested in a tourism education just around the COVID pandemic. My family used to runs a company in India, and I come from that kind of an experience, and I came here to understand and how we can contribute better and understand what tourism really means and what the next steps are. And I would like some opinions from you as to, I found this real potential to connect, a better connection to happen between what graduates are researching in the classrooms and what information is needed on the field at this point in time, and perhaps a better communication of those goals and understandings can perhaps help us, integrate better into what is needed in place at this point in time. And, how do you think we can go ahead? And I can just place an example as well. Dr. White's right here. He's my supervisor, and what we are doing in trying to explore this possibility is host an open house for research that has happened on Langford, Colwood, and this place. So an ability for people to see what research and what place and community is really saying about or what the needs are to better understand that. So I'm just trying to understand if there are better efficiencies here at play that can happen, and we can, because there are a lot of us that are studying tourism here, and they're doing research and they're looking for direction towards more helpful and something that doesn't just leave in a folder as an assignment, but also be able to share the same and make an impact with that.
Great question.
I can start with this if you'd like. Thank you for sharing that. And I agree, there's definitely room for collaboration within the industries and students. I think it's essential, actually. When I was in my grad program, so I did my thesis on regenerative tourism, and I worked with this wonderful professor, Dr. Chris Gaffney. And in my last semester of grad school, though I didn't get to see the fruition of it, we started a club, I guess you could say, called the Travel and Tourism Research Collective. And it put all professors and students that entered this space on an equal plane to share what research they were working on and express opportunities for collaboration. We also brought in experts from outside of the university sphere to present opportunities for students to work on their projects as well on a volunteer basis. So maybe if that's not something that is currently existing in the Royal Roads University atmosphere, you can create it.
Anything to add in the room, or?
I guess my question, I kind of have a question in response, is how are your internships, do they feed into your thesis at all? Like, is that a possibility?
I think that's an additional thing. So we do research and we do have an opportunity to do internships along with that as well. So that kind of
Because that was kind of going to be my answer is, work alongside as an internship and craft that into your thesis, which is kind of what I did for my thesis, but that's not really a novel answer for you, sorry.
No, that's good because I was just attending the communications event that Nancy hosted, and there are direct pathways of internships with local businesses that they come in every year and actively recruit people from the campus. Maybe we can think about something like that, at least locally, because I can for sure say, having looked at a lot of research that is happening, there's some good quality work that's been produced.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. Like, I know for myself, we are kind of gearing up for a bigger project, and I would love to have student support. So keep your ears open or eyes open.
Yeah, we had good discussion with 4VI on some projects we can do together. Amazing. I think I want to be respectful of people's time. It's already 11:58. I guess trying to do the math back east, it's 3 p.m. for you on a Friday. I might open kind of 2 breakout rooms, maybe online. So if you want to network here and network here, I'll see how cacophonic that gets, because I don't know if you will still hear us. I'll try to mute ourselves, but I think we can give a big round of applause. People online. Thank you so much. Yeah. And I'll send the recording and all the links and the books we discuss. I'm taking a bunch of notes, and I hope I'll see you next week. We have a roundtable event on campus on October 2nd, and then we'll have an online event with Professional Association on the 17th, and a symposium on justice November 5th. And after we'll have a break. Thank you so much for attending. I'm very deeply grateful for your time. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.